And we'll show screen. Okay. And thank you for joining me. This is day 4 of supporting your co-creative urge, and we've got a number of people on. Some of you have been with me for the whole week. Some are kind of finding this, new, so hopefully you can get something out of it joining in midstream. But the whole idea, the whole theme of what we're doing is just honoring that creative instinct that is within you. Some of us are at the point where we've got, just a little kernel of an idea, a seed of an idea that needs to be nurtured. Others of us, we talked to April yesterday, who now has a brick and mortar, store, and she's been producing superfood snacks. She does these protein balls and granola. I've also got on the call today another friend of mine, Anne Marie, and I have her site up on the screen right now. It's mightymirth.com, and she's not sure what what she can add, and I think that she can add a lot to this conversation because I see her as somebody who just has honored this instinct, who has taken the idea out of her head and produced, a tangible thing out in the world. And so, Anne-Marie, can you hear me okay? Are you switched to a phone that's comfortable for you?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
I can hear you.
Good. Good. Well, can you just tell the people on the call a little bit about your little guy here, Mighty Mirth, and how this this brand came to be? How did this go from an idea to cards and to clothing?
Well, it started with a sketch, and I had actually been working on another project. I just kind of wanted to get some of my ideas out in the world. I'm a body worker, and people I work with teach me so much, and I just wanted to share some of the insights that I had gained from that process, and obviously from other people in my life who contributed to me over the years. And for some reason, I hit on this idea about laughter, and I just drew this figure. I don't have no idea why. I can't remember why. One day, wasn't an artist. I wasn't drawing. I wasn't doing any visual art. I was more oriented towards written, and but this little figure just kind of captivated me, and I just couldn't let go of it. And I think that's basically kind of what I've gotten from this process is that, being hit with an idea, something that lit me up and made me want to pursue it, waking up in the middle of the night and, that kind of thing. Just taking the next steps and kind of plowing through all the internal dialogue I had about, I can't do this, and I don't know what I'm doing, and, what is the next step, and all of those things, just not listening to that and following, I guess there's something inside me that just wanted to keep pursuing what this little figure had to say.
Good. Well, that's great. I sure am glad that you did, because I think that your cards are beautiful and the message is just very uplifting, earth-centered, people-centered, and, I think it's beautiful. And I have given you credit a couple times during the week for your word plurk that I just love. I'm going to put that up on screen right now. And I was talking about how on my Pinterest board that I've created as an inspiration kind of touchstone for this week's workshop, that if you can find that middle ground, that kind of overlaps what you really love to do and what people are willing to pay you for, to me, that kind of exemplifies living in the plurk zone where you're playing and working. So do you want to say anything about plurk, or what additionally that means to you?
Yeah, I think I love what you said about the plurk zone. I need to make a cartoon with that. And because that's what I like to do is with the cartoons, I want to find a quick way to communicate, a big message. And plurk to me, it's about, your work life, bringing play into your work life, but also, just everyday life. washing the dishes, or just doing the things, everyday things that we have to do, with a spirit of play, and trying to find joy and wonder in everyday moments. So that's plurk is a big word, and it's a kind of a funny word, and when as I'm sure you share it with people, they kind of smile. So yeah, I don't know where it came from. I've always liked to combine words. And so I think it just came out of that rebellious spirit that I have. That's the word we have aren't enough. I need to make a new one.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And, you said you had to kind of overcome some voices in your head that said, hey, I can't do this, or, I don't have experience with this. And you got past that. Today, the main theme that I wanted to explore was, who are the people that we need to meet? How do we, go about, the first part is you got to have an idea. You do have to conquer those, voices and just feel it is good enough, take that first step. And then, besides the idea and the nurturing of the idea, I actually think that, the people that we meet, the contacts that have different experiences, the people who can open doors, that's a pretty important step. And I was going to show people on the call today a couple ways to just research how to find those people, some maybe language that feels comfortable for reaching out to those people. And I just wonder if you can go back through your process over the last few years and think of, was there somebody that you met that you feel really liked your stuff, helped you along the way? We didn't talk about this, so if you don't feel comfortable or you don't have an example, don't feel pressured. But can you think of any key
Well, you're
relationships?
one of those people.
Oh, well, thank you. I wasn't even digging for a compliment, but thank you. That's a good thing.
Well, definitely, and you've encouraged me, and you've given me the I don't know what to explore the social media aspect, computer stuff. So you've been one, and I have to say that there's been so many, and not to diminish how important you've been, but every person. There's been so many people who've just encouraged and liked something, and so I guess, but that came from sharing. So and letting people know what I'm doing, and not hiding out too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that tendency to because you don't know what the reaction is going to be in the world. But I think that it's been a very long list along the way, and I think people, strangers, friends, family, and some people have discouraged me. There's been those too. So you have to work past those voices too, and just I think when something's strong inside you, to let it have a voice. I think that's what I've learned, and I keep learning.
Good. Well, thank you for that compliment. I really, honestly, was not digging for any.
I know you weren't, but it's true.
I guess one person I was thinking of, I don't even know this person by name, but I know you do quite a bit of travel. Just, your home life kind of takes you on the road a lot. And I recall you said that you talked to somebody, I believe in New York, maybe a yoga studio person. Is that anything that you'd like to talk about? Did that open up doors for you, or did that expand your ideas about how your product could be put out there in the world?
Well, that's still evolving because she has changed. She's evolving her message, but that was. I'm not sure where that's going to go right now. We've been in contact, and she's redoing all her social media stuff and what her whole vision is right now. But the fact that I got up the courage to go to a yoga studio in New York. I had no idea that it was she was the person whose studio I was going to be talking to was kind of such a major player. But she is, and I figured that out later. And but her response to my work was just so instant. And in that moment, she'd expressed a desire to share my work on her website. As I said, now she's changing all of that, so we'll see where that goes. But it was one of those situations where I followed the advice of one of my other mentors to focus on cards, and so out of just doing one thing, focusing on the cards, I had the T-shirts, but create cards because they're easy to cart around and they're cheap to make and all of that, and I have lots of ideas. So, yeah, out of that focus, I took those cards to Elena Brower in New York, and she just had such a big yes to what I was doing that that was a big boost along the way. But it did take a lot of courage, even though I didn't know how important she was at the time.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, thank you for sharing. Again, we didn't really rehearse this. I think your stuff is really cool, and again, it's tangible, so I thought it's kind of an inspiration to share with other people that are still, getting their idea together. So thank you very much for sharing that, Anne-Marie. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, and I guess part of what it's born out of is that everybody has something, a gift inside them. I mean, that's the amazing you, that amazing you card that you have up there,
right here. Mm-hmm.
With the inspiration kit there,
mm-hmm.
Because I really that's the heart of my message, is that we all have something really beautiful inside of us to share.
Well, thank you. I think that's a great message and one that I definitely agree with. Okay, yeah. So I'll let you go back to, you can enjoy the ride from here on out. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks to Anne-Marie for sharing that. Again, today's message, or today's focus was really going to be about how can you reach out to that person that can really help you. How do you get started? Yesterday we talked about the importance of just something that I called the informational interview, and Lisa Harris was nice enough to look up a link and share it via chat, and I didn't get a chance to review that yet. But I learned years and years ago that when you're asking somebody for something particular, like a job, let's say, that if they're put in an uncomfortable position where they can only say yes or no and they don't have a job for you, then that's uncomfortable. But just being able to ask for information or feedback is much more comfortable, and pretty much almost everybody that I talked to was willing, to do that. So we're going to talk today about how you can find those people that could be way showers for you, how you can, reach out to people that would be willing to give of their time, talent, information. And if anybody has a story that they would like to share, please put it in the chat window. And Anne-Marie, you're getting a fan shout out from Cincinnati, Ohio. Joe and Nancy Legner, those are my parents. They say love her products. So thanks for sharing that. In any case, I wanted to start with just one example that I could think of from my own life, and again, I'll be happy to kind of share the floor. I was going to show one important friendship that, of all places, started on Twitter. And so to get to the Twitter feed to find, kind of trace this memory back, how did it get started, I actually went to a site called allmytweets.net. It's an app that you can overlay with Twitter, and it actually shows you all of your tweets, a whole archive, so thousands of them. Kind of crazy. And my very first tweet ever, enjoying the smell of fresh brewed coffee and contemplating what I want to do for the rest of my life. Deep. Okay, that was October 16th, 2008. And then expanding my horizons. I'm like, okay, what was I even doing? Don't know. So there's some stuff. I'm just kind of talking to people about all different things. This was a pretty big deal here, November 21st, going to dinner with friends to celebrate my sister's successful brain surgery today. For anybody who knows me beyond this workshop, you've probably heard me talk about that, was a pretty big deal in my family. My sister had what's called an AVM, an arteriovenous malformation, and she had lost consciousness for a month. She was hospitalized for like 5-6 months, and my parents and I, my husband, and several others were all kind of camped out in Detroit to be there for her during her recovery. So here we go, November 30th, I was with Julie listening to a podcast in her hospital room. So really, the beginning stuff was kind of Detroit and just my attempt to start to understand, how does this tool work? It was a way for me to keep connected with my Valparaiso friends, while I was in Detroit, or vice versa. I just found that social media was the thing that kind of let me have a life in both places, as I lived not very fully in either spot. But I'd say by about December, here we go, December 8th, this was me back in Valparaiso pretty much, for good. And I was starting to just get more curious about Twitter just for its own sake, not as, just something to communicate things going on about my family and my sister and that kind of deal. And so one of the things I did was just, I was looking at who was tweeting close to me, and I had also looked for, it doesn't seem to be in play anymore, but there used to be something called Twitter Grader, and now they've kind of merged it in with Marketing Grader. It's something from HubSpot. But Twitter Grader let you see who were the top Twitter influencers in your area, within a however many mile radius. And I saw this woman called Kiss My Aster. You can see all these different tweets that went on between us over December 8th through December 13th. And, I could see that she had quite a bit of influence, and she was kind of coming out of nowhere. And she seemed to be really confused about Chicago. She moved to Valparaiso recently from Chicago and just was having a hard time with directional kind of advice that people were giving. They tended to tell newcomers or old-timers alike, yeah, it's by the old big wheel, which doesn't exist anymore, and so it was just a little tough. So we got off on a friendly kind of shared experience thing, and then after, however many, 8 or so talks back and forth, Twitter again is just 140 characters. There's not a whole lot of, oomph that you can get into a conversation. We were like, all right, this is kind of crazy. We live a mile from one another. Why don't we go get coffee? So for people who were on the call, gosh, what was it, yesterday, or let me see, might have been 2 days ago, when I shared my purple journal. My purple journal that I write all my very special stuff and keep my best, highest thoughts in. I took a picture of it, and I put a picture of it by my Co-Thrive, Birth of Co-Thrive, which is my biggest project lately. And this journal I bought as a result of Amanda, my friend. Her Twitter handle is Kiss My Aster. But basically, I think it was, where we said, okay, here we go, December 13th. That was fun. Thanks for joining us. Let's do it again sometime. We evidently had breakfast. We did have breakfast again, just the two of us. And basically, she said, I think you need to honor this impulse within yourself to incorporate Reiki. That seems like a really big deal for you. And I wasn't at all clear how that would work, if that would work. Working for myself in that capacity just seemed kind of crazy. But I really, really admired her spunk. She just had this very rebellious spirit. Anne-Marie kind of mentioned a rebellious spirit helped propel her forward. And, she just, I got to show you a picture of her because I think she's just absolutely outstanding. Her name is Amanda Thompson, and she was recently featured in the Chicago Tribune for her book by the title of the same name, called Kiss My Aster. Let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. It's actually a great, great gardening book. So she's just kind of, you can see, an epitome of rebellion. She's kind of got a big tattoo of pruning shears here on her right shoulder. That is, in fact, a permanent tattoo. It's not a temporary. And she is kind of a wildflower. but at the time, this was pre-Amanda's book. She was, I think, employed at some kind of gardening place here in Valparaiso. She was kind of finding her way. That shortly after we met, she lost that job and kind of went about reinventing herself and went down the entrepreneurial path. So she and I kind of locked steps there for a while. And anybody who's met me knows I don't dress like this. I dress kind of preppy. I call myself the hippie in Talbot's clothing. I'm not like the one to really stand out in an edgy way. I kind of like to blend and just have edgy thoughts. But anyway, she was really something. So she encouraged me to get that notebook and to really pursue my passion. And then she was also the one who said, you know what, I think Northwest Indiana needs a social media event, and I think you should be the one to do it. I think you should be the one to lead it up. So I wonder if I can even find this just Googling for it. So I think just very, very shortly after I met her, like a month or two, we started the very first, here we go, inaugural tweet up was in, I think, February of 2009. And, okay, we got newspaper coverage, all this kind of stuff. It was a picture of me, Amanda, and a couple, I think we had like 30 people show up at our first tweet up. And now it's a thing that somebody else runs, NWI Tweet Up. By the way, if you want to get really involved if you want to get involved in your local community and find out who the power Twitter users are, I would definitely recommend going to a tweet up. And Foy is reminding me that we met at a tweet up at Pick's Steakhouse in Valparaiso when she was still here. And that is very cool. I think I had seen her on Twitter first and then met her in person, and now she lives, farther away, but we can still keep in touch via Twitter, so that's very cool. So tweet ups work. I guess that's the thing I want to to say. Twitter worked, but if I just looked at Twitter as a stream of gibberish that's coming over my news feed, it doesn't look like you could pick a person or a relationship out of that, right? That's a little confusing. But if you start to know how to use Twitter, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you like how a hashtag, for instance, will help kind of tame this dragon. If I type in NW Indiana, for instance, that's a hashtag that we use here in Northwest Indiana to kind of define the region that we're speaking about. This is kind of interesting. This guy right here, Robert Blaskowitz, he was actually the reporter who came to that very, very first tweet up and covered it, took a picture, and got us the news coverage. So kind of small little world here. Anyway, you can certainly find out what the geographic hashtags are for your area and, kind of follow who's a leader in your area by using that hashtag. You can also just check out TweetUp. And again, that's a meetup for people on Twitter. It typically does extend beyond just Twitter and goes into just general, social media coverage. But tweet-ups are really a pretty cool thing where you can, meet and greet in real time the people who are behind the Twitter handle. So that's something I would definitely recommend. And besides just geographic or tweet-up meetups that you're looking for, why don't we look for, let's see, I'm gonna go with Carly for a second here because she said she's kind of working with senior housing, okay? And I think that's a really smart idea, because we've got aging baby boomers and, our current housing is not going to really work for everybody. So I think aging in place, if that's part of what you're doing, totally makes sense. So what I would do is until you know what the hashtags are, just simply type in, senior housing in your Twitter bar and see who's talking about senior housing. Okay, here's senior housing news. Well, that seems like they're probably going to be pretty serious about that topic since that's their entire Twitter handle. And they're actually in Chicago, where Carly is. So that's pretty neat. If you're not following them already, that seems like perhaps a good one to check out. Now, what I would do from here is to say, okay, who is Senior Housing News following? I can click on who they're following and probably find some like-minded people Now, seniors obviously don't just live somewhere, they eat, so they've got things like Windy City Paddy Wagon. I don't know that that particularly has something to do with, seniors, but A Place for Mom, I've heard of that before. Allegro Senior Living. It looks like, there's some consistency around topics, so that's a quick way that you can kind of get in to what they've already curated. And you can do the same thing conversely with who's following senior housing news. You might be able to tell from the people that are following them what's their interest in that topic, okay? So it just really starts with a kernel of a relationship basically, or just finding that first connection and then bridging out from there to find out who do they know and who do they know. And again, I kind of like Twitter just because it's so casual. You don't have to say, hey, will you be my friend, like you do on Facebook. That can feel a little junior high sometimes if somebody says no or whatever, it's just kind of like access denied. But anybody can simply follow senior housing news, and you can, drill down and see who they're following, who's following them. And, usually once you kind of get a start, you find that first connection, then you can go from there and let's say, maybe go to A Place for Mom. You can do the same thing. Now they're following almost 5,000 people and have 7,000 following them. That's a lot. And they're out of Seattle, so they're not necessarily all going to be local, to Chicago. But, sometimes you can click on their website. You can find out more information there. You can scan what these thought leaders are talking about and see if there's a hashtag that they're using. A hashtag, by the way, is just, it's a stand-in, a shortened version generally of a phrase that represents a topic. And it usually takes up less characters than, the actual words. So for Northwest Indiana, for instance, we use hashtag NW Indiana, all one word together. If we had to spell out Northwest Indiana, that would take out a really large, proportion of the 140 characters available for a tweet, right? So it's kind of a space saver. And it's, a consistency approach, too, where you can brand your tweet and let people know that you want to be a part of that particular conversation, that particular, geographic conversation or that topical conversation. Or sometimes there are even things called tweet chats that are live events that correspond with a webinar. So I think that would be fun to do sometime. We could get you guys live tweeting for one of these events that I'm doing. And what that does is it kind of gives people a way to chat beyond the chat box and do it in a more public way, okay, which is actually a good strategy for the person who's doing the webinar because, when we're chatting with one another, only the people on the call can see it. But when we're, live chatting out there in the world, other people know what we're talking about, and we create a buzz, with that. We did an experiment kind of around that very thing 2 weeks ago, and we called it Social Lights. This thing that we're doing today is kind of, a next step, but we actually had our own little hashtag called Social Lights, and we developed all this, kind of beautiful content over the course of the week, tweeted it with that hashtag to create a buzz, around that. So, sometimes it can be a project that's shared. It's definitely easier to use a hashtag when more than one person is using it. Otherwise, it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good. So before you go branding your own hashtag or creating your own hashtag, I would really suggest, just finding out about what are other people already talking about surrounding, your area of interest. And I know we've got a number of people on the call that kind of are in, local food or food health, non-GMO foods, organic, things like that. So I'm going to just do a little thing on that real quick. So local food, that's a hashtag that's being used. I mean, gourmet, adventure, Spain, culinary trips, local food. Technically, there's no end to how many hashtags you can string together, but once you start using more than 3 or 4, my feeling is it's a little excessive. It starts to take away from the idea of what is really the most important. You know, if you've got just a couple of hashtags, usually those are the words that you're saying, hey, these are the most important, you know, in my tweet. And here's Lisa, who's on the call, the Savory Muse. So that's cool. That's nice to see that she's, you know, having lived in Vermont 15 years, any state ranked in the top 49 could use more local food and local restaurants. So that doesn't surprise me that she's out there using, you know, those words. And so just a little tip for you, Lisa, since people are using that hashtag local food, what you might want to consider the next time you're talking about local food in a tweet is just to remove the space from between those two words and put a hashtag in front of it. In that way, you might come up on the radar for more people that were actually looking for, you know, tweets about local food. Okay, you know, obviously I found you just typing in those two words, but when you use the hashtag, here's what happens. It turns into a hyperlinked piece of text that you can use as its own filter. So when I click on local foods hashtag, that filters out everything that's just, you know, local space food, just regular text, and it shows up, you know, in a feed. Okay, so if somebody's following this Twitter feed for local food, your tweets are going to show up there. So again, we're mostly focusing on how you can discover things today, but if there's a place where I can show you a tip where you can be found as well, certainly, you know, that's very helpful. So hopefully I'm not layering on too much today, but I think Twitter is a great place for discovery for anybody who wants to try that. You know, again, I found Amanda, and actually she ended up being kind of the topic of the book that my chapter in the book that came out just last week, which was called Transformational Magic, Creating Common Ground. It's a chapter in a book called Women Living Consciously, and my chapter was about worm composting. Amanda is the first person who introduced me to that, and so my chapter was about, you know, meeting her and kind of my process into that discovery. So all I want to say is, you know, it started from a tweet and it really grew into a very nice friendship that has been influential to me in so many ways it's hard to even count. So who is it that you could meet today, this week, you know, this year, that's going to help you boost your dream, your co-creative urge, your, you know, your idea? They're out there. You know, like-minded people are out there. I just want to show you that this happens for me so frequently. It's, you know, I can't make this stuff up. I signed on to LinkedIn. Again, unfortunately, my dog woke me up at 3 in the morning. So I've been up since 3 today, again. And I checked my LinkedIn messages, and lo and behold, here's somebody that I don't know at all. I doesn't look like we've got any connections in common, but he's a psychic medium, evidently, Reiki practitioner at Intuitive Matters, and this was dated, what's today? Today's the 5th. This was from yesterday morning, so I just saw it last night. Hi, Kathy, would like to connect with you. I would care to talk and possibly see how you can put me on the map for enhancing my work. Thank you, Stephen B. I haven't talked to him yet, but I will definitely, you know, reach out to him today. You know, being on the LinkedIn space and probably identifying myself as a Reiki master and just some of the language that I'm using led him to me. Okay, so again, this works both ways. Maybe he's trying to find me as the person who's going to be able to help him birth his message in the world, and you know, there are people that are definitely looking for him as well. So I was pretty fascinated by his you know, by his profile. It definitely looks like somebody I would enjoy working with. But he's a third level connection, so we don't have anybody in common. He's out of New York, Albany, New York. So it'll be really interesting to find out, you know, how did he find me? Was it just a LinkedIn search? I don't know. But where you might want to look for people on LinkedIn, let's try something here. There are groups on LinkedIn, and I think this is one of the most awesome features of LinkedIn, quite frankly, because I used to be a membership director at a 7,000 member Chamber of Commerce. I think chambers of commerce are great. I mean, don't get me wrong. But there's only one of you. You can only go to so many live events, and frankly, they cost something. So you've got to pay your membership, and then usually have to pay something for your ticket to go to the lunch. There's time involved. If you've got small children, then you have to pay for childcare. It's kind of difficult to get to everything you want to get to. But on LinkedIn, you can join up to 50 groups for free for the most part, okay? Some of them have restricted membership where you actually need to be a member of their, real life club or chamber or what have you. But again, just because we've got a couple people in the food industry, I'm just going to go ahead and pick slow food. I think I maxed out my group. I think I'm already in 50 groups. So although this one sounds neat, I'm not going to probably be able to join it. There are 35,714 members, okay? So I think anybody who, I'm thinking Lisa, thinking Foy, maybe Connie, depending on, what you end up wanting to do. Just being in the group doesn't say, hey, I'm going to work in slow food movement, but it's a way to kind of network with people, see who is a mover and a shaker in that space. And, when you write a blog post about something that's relevant, this would be a great group to share it with, right? Because there are 35,000, almost 36,000 people in that group. So, they have conversations, they have, related threads that people talk about, and you can also find out, who's in that group already that's in your network. So that's kind of another litmus test. If you don't know anything about the group, if you've never heard of them, you can just see, oh, okay, Beth Schrader, that makes a lot of sense. She compiled the local food study here in Northwest Indiana for our Regional Planning Commission, so that makes total sense. She owns a food place up in Chesterton. Christine Livingston, I know her from the Tourism Council. Thomas Henderson, actually, he's a great one that both Lisa and Foy, you should both know because you're both Hoosiers. He has something called the Axe Project, and he might be somebody who could help you along your way. I met him a couple of years ago at a Sustainable Indiana event, and the Axe Project, he's in Cass County, but it actually goes beyond Cass County. He's really looking to build sustainable food systems all across, the state, across the world. So again, he's Thomas Henderson. You could check him out, and you could look him up just going into advanced search, typing in Thomas Henderson and looking up Kokomo, Indiana area. You can use my name. You can say that I suggested maybe you connect, okay? Anyway, that's just an example. There's so many people out there, and it's easier than ever before to create your own luck. I used to get so excited when I would go to a chamber event or I would go to any kind of social function, and I would just be like, wow, this is so cool. We have so much in common. Isn't that special? Isn't that amazing? It's still amazing to me, but it's less and less surprising because I put myself in more and more positions where I know I'm likely to meet the people that I want to meet, frankly. So, we've talked about Twitter, talked about LinkedIn, and I'm about to jump to Facebook, but real quick before we leave LinkedIn, I just want to give you a housekeeping tip that makes it a little bit easier to keep all these people straight. I love gardening analogies, and I've got a module that I've created called Cultivating Connections. I'm a seed saver. I wouldn't just save a seed of a relationship, or I wouldn't save seeds from a vegetable without labeling it, right? Because it's probably going to grow something. It might not be what you want to grow or where you want to grow it. So before I would leave Thomas's profile, after adding him to my network, I would click tag, and I would say, okay, let's see, I'll just call him a co-creator for right now. You can have as many tags as you want, and you can tag people with multiple tags. They never are the wiser. They don't have any clue how you've tagged them, okay? But if you wanted to have one that was local food or, maybe food blogger, whatever, that's just a really great way to organize your contacts. Because after you start having, after you've grown your network to the size, to any kind of size, frankly, it can become really a little bit difficult to remember. Why did I have this person in my network to begin with? How did that happen? and why would I maybe want to connect with them. Okay, so tagging does a couple of things. It'll help your sanity, but it also helps you. You can do lookups based on tags, which is a really cool thing. So just kind of like the way that hashtag worked in Twitter, that I could click on a hashtag and filter all the conversations, I could filter all my contacts by tag if I wanted to. And so if I wanted people that, you know, are green only. Okay, this is actually a good one that I should do. Oh, bummer. I guess I haven't been using that very, oh, by recent conversation. Let's do select all. Okay. Search. There we go. Okay. Alrighty, filtered by green. Okay. Yeah, there you are, Carly. You're on my green. There's Anne Marie, all my green friends that I love. Okay. Very cool. So I have, I'm going to just show you how this is worth doing. I have an event kind of like what we're doing today, you know, for this co-creative urge. I'm doing social media for people that care about the environment next week. Now, I could go to Eventbrite, I can look it up there, or I could go to my Facebook page. I'm not signed into Eventbrite, I'll go to Facebook. All right, so the reason, you know, again, why this is worth doing is that if I had to go back in my mind and think, who do I know that's green? Who do I know that might care about this, this event that I'm doing next week? It could take me a lot of time to figure that out, right? But if I can just simply get my link, pretty simply, let me get there. Okay, here we go. So if you guys know anybody, or if anybody on this call wants to attend, again, it's free. Again, you know, I'm accepting donations. For people that are donating at various levels, I'm actually giving them a copy of my ebook, that Transformational Magic about worm composting that I mentioned. And at $20 or more, you get listed as a supporter of the project. I'm going to include your name in my ebook. And then if you do $30 or more, you get a copy of Women Living Consciously signed and shipped to you. So again, I want to honor free for anybody who needs it to be free. I don't want to lose your attendance, but for anybody who is incented by these other things, I'd love to give you something and make it a win-win. Okay, so my main reason for coming here is I wanted to grab this URL, and I'm going back to LinkedIn. I've already done this lookup on green. Okay, I'm going to select all. I'm not going to send to my husband because he knows what I'm doing already. And then I'm going to click message. Okay, this is so cool. I can message people that I have tagged. And one thing I would say is, just so people don't feel that you are, you know, sending this very special message to too many people at once, you can unclick allow recipients to see each other's names and email addresses, and that's kind of like a BCC type thing, okay? So blind carbon copy. So I can say free online training for people who care about the environment, okay, something like that. And then, hi there, just wanted to let you know about a special program I am hosting next week, designed to empower people who care about the environment to learn needed skills to be successful on social media. Okay, and so you might kind of think, well, what on earth different are we going to talk about successful? There we go. Let's see. I'll be talking about, among topics covered will be online, you know, creating an online petition. We haven't talked about that in this class because, you know, that's maybe not in the wheelhouse of what people in this program would need. Online petition, crowdfunding, your green idea, okay, etc. Okay, and then there's just going to be some register here. Registration and more details here. Please share with anyone you know who may be interested. Okay, so that's it. I'll sign off in my Greenway Kepi. Okay, so let's just do send message. And this is pretty cool because I just sent that to how many people? Quite a few. I'm not exactly sure how many tags I've got there, but it took me not very long. I mean, it probably took me a little bit longer just because I was trying to kind of explain it as I go. But you can see the value there as you build a network that's very huge. You don't have to go back and look up, names and try to figure out who's interested, all that kind of thing. The other cool thing is, I'd already mentioned groups. So let me just, before I leave here, grab this message. I could also share the same offering from groups that I've already joined, right? So I could go into green, let's see what green groups I'm already in. Yeah, I'll do that later. I'm sure I'm in some. I'm in, as I said, 50. So there are just all kinds of ways that you can use LinkedIn. Okay, I'm not yet a member of this, so I'm not going to join that right now. But, green and sustainability innovators, that would maybe be a good one for me to join. And if I join that, what I could do would be to just, join the conversation thread and to say, hey, here's, something I'm doing for free. That's going to probably be a welcome, thread in this group. Now, I wouldn't go putting, threads that are clearly self-promotional where you're not offering value to the group members or it's not a very related, I wouldn't come here and start talking about social lights, for instance. If it seemed kind of like a Reiki thing, that might not resonate completely with this, this group. You want to match your message or your offer to the group, right? So hopefully that makes some sense. Is that new for anybody, or is this all kind of basic? Hopefully I'm giving a few of you at least, some new ideas of how this could work for you. So, okay, you guys are being kind of quiet on the question area. So hopefully the pace is okay. I hope so. All right, hope I haven't lost anybody. Okay, and then, Facebook. I don't tend to do quite as much business on Facebook, but a little overwhelmed. Okay, well, I can appreciate that. I know sometimes it's like you kind of have to hear it once and just let it wash over you, and then try some element of it. Honestly, this is one reason that I'm offering these free workshops is, there's some people on this call that I have said this to, and I've said it multiple times, and for whatever reason, like the first couple times, it was too much. I'm kind of a fire hose. I'm giving them too much information. But by the second, third, fourth time they heard it, they're like, oh, okay, it's gelling for me. I get it. I'm going to give this a try. So again, I don't want this to become too overwhelming. I'd like you to just try one thing. So what's the one thing that you can commit to? For those of you on LinkedIn, if you're not even on LinkedIn, then this is obviously going to be a huge jump, is to get on LinkedIn, develop a profile, search out a group. But for those of you who are already there, could you look for a group that you think would be a good fit? Just, that could be a good fishing ground for you to meet, or fishing hole. I guess fish don't have ground, do they? Fishing hole for you to fish for that next connection that might unlock a great opportunity for you, okay? There's not one right way to do it. I'm just trying to give you some choices and hopefully, show you the most relevant way for you based on where you're already, spending time. So, good. Groups sound like wonderful connections. I mean, they really are. Honestly, I think they're amazing for the level of support that you get, and especially for free. I mean, it doesn't get much better than free, right? So Facebook, I think everybody on this call is on Facebook. I think we're all connected as friends here. I did create a group in fact, 2 weeks ago called Social Lights, and anybody who's not yet on it but that would like to be added, just let me know in chat and I'll add you right away. Basically, the idea behind this was to play off of what we started, which was, committing to sharing our light, our messages of light in the world, not to be those among people that are, kind of spreading gloom and doom and destruction and that kind of thing. So, I put my little group message here, welcome you, Social Light you. I'm overjoyed you're ready to join us and let your light shine in the online world. This group devoted to creating and or finding the most uplifting content available online with the purpose of sharing it to elevate world consciousness. So I really think that everybody on this call does that in some way or another, but I'm not going to add you if you don't want to be. So just let me know. I get it. That might sound a little, the language might sound funny for you, or just if it doesn't resonate with you, no problem. I do have another group planned that I think everybody will enjoy soon. And I've got guidelines, so that we're not just dumping things in there every day. There's kind of a theme around each day. Multimedia Monday, Shutterbug Tuesday for all you photo people out there, Support Wednesday, what are you looking for that you're trying to promote? Is there a blog post that you wrote that you'd like comments on? Do you have an event that you'd like retweeted or whatever? So it just kind of, guides what we are sharing. Good. Yay. Foy wants to join. You're in, Foy. You got it. You are in like Flynn. Okay. So wonderful. There you go. And then, what I'd like for people to do, just so that we can continue to build on that momentum, is to use the hashtag. It doesn't have to be in every single thing that you do, but if you feel like it, it does resonate with the message of what Social Lights is about, by all means, put on that Social Lights hashtag. And my intention there is that we can kind of help send a beacon out to one another, and as well as, sharing content that we've seen from other places, we can help, promote each other's, stuff. And my mom wants to join. Awesome. You're in, Mom. Nancy Legner. I'm going to add Nancy Legner right now. Very cool. And so I'm going to send you a welcome message via the group, but I'll just, invite you to go ahead and do that. I ask you to please read the group guidelines, and then just let the other group members know, what it is you do. This is a good time to share, your blog link and that kind of thing. So this is just one example of a group. And, this is kind of like that power of attraction, or the secret. The groups that you join, kind of birds of a feather flock together, right? So I'm in a couple groups with, Reiki people and kind of spiritually minded people, innovators, that kind of thing. So the suggested groups that I see tend to be things that actually look pretty darn intriguing for me, because, other people that I know from different groups are in them. And Facebook kind of looks at this holistically and says, okay, Kathy and Nina and Tammy and Linda are all in this group, and 3 of these 4 are also in another one. Kathy would probably like that too. So you can see seed swap. Okay, I love gardening. I told you I love seeds, and it's almost like Facebook can hear me. It's almost creepy. Let's see, Indiana Beyond Coal, compost to garden. Yes, probably would love that too. Thrifting, yep, I love thrifting. I'm not a mom, so I probably won't join Region Moms. I'm not a shamanic practitioner, although that sounds very interesting. There's just all kinds of stuff that sounds interesting, but I would probably click on it, read it, see if it appeals. I bet you this one's about permaculture, yeah, sharing simple, sustainable solutions. So again, it's kind of about just telling the universe what you're interested in, or the universe in this case is Facebook. By expressing your desire to join one group, you're going to be guided to that next step and that next step and that next step. So, just taking that first step out in faith and, being a little bit discerning will make it easier and easier to find more content and more people that are going to resonate with what you're about. So, for homework, we've got about 5 minutes left for today. For homework is I would just like you to commit to one single thing that you're willing to do. whether it's joining a Facebook group, whether it's joining a LinkedIn group, and then, introducing yourself to the group could be as basic as that. For extra credit, you could, go on to one of their discussion threads, make sure that you read the rules so that you're kind of, fitting in and playing by their guidelines. Or for anybody on Twitter, I'd love for you to tell me about a new hashtag that you discovered or a new Twitter account that you're now following because of this challenge, okay? Twitter, again, it's very, very casual. You don't have to really ask for admission. You just begin following. Are very many people here on Google+? Just give me a shout out in the chat if you're on Google+. Google Plus kind of works almost as a hybrid, like between Facebook and Twitter. You get more real estate to work with than you do with Twitter. It's not limited to 140 characters. Okay, Carly says yes, but don't really use it. That's kind of how I am. I have seen value for some clients, but I just, for whatever reason, it just, I don't know. For some reason, I just haven't really been that excited about it. But it has actually worked very well for certain clients where I feel that they could not have found their tribe any other way. So I don't want to discount it or give it the short shrift. I'll just let's see. Okay, Roseanne says yes, but it's rudimentary. You need to use it more and fill in the blanks. Carly says it does allow you to group people in circles. Yep, and that's where I was kind of going with it. I do like that thing about it. It does feel a bit more intuitive than hashtags or something as formal as groups. It's, again, kind of a hybrid is the way that I see it, where on LinkedIn you can tag people. They don't have any idea they've been tagged at all, and they certainly don't know what that tag says. With Google+, people know that you've added them to your circles, but they don't know what that circle is called. So it could be, acquaintances, it could be family, it could be, I've got like NWI Tweet Up people, green drinks, natural health, community gardeners, business models I think are interesting. So I guess I've done more than I thought I had, but social media people I respect. WordPress ideas. Okay, so I guess I've got more than I realized. I could go to green drinks, and let's see. Okay, so let's see if I've still got that same. Yeah, I've still got that message in my memory that I had copied before when I was in LinkedIn. So why not share it in multiple places, right? So I'll go ahead and we'll just do share. Or you know what, I could add more people. I could do Sustainable Indiana people. I could do Green Northwest Indiana. I could do Green Ideas, sure. I mean, you can really just get as crazy as you want with this. But this is where, if you've done the work up front and you've, curated this, these people, then it's quite easy to share your material with people that are going to be more likely to want to do something with it and receive it, okay? If you're just constantly tweeting or Facebooking or whatever, everything to everybody, it probably isn't going to get as high of a read and share kind of a phenomenon. So I hope that makes sense. Any questions? I know we're almost out of time for today, but if you would like me to go over anything, if I went too fast, I'd be happy to stick around and answer questions. But that's it for the formal part of our presentation today. So I want to thank you again for showing up and allowing me to be part of your journey. I think that this is really fun, what we're doing here. And I do want to tell you that I added a few new pins to the Co-Creative Impulse board on Pinterest. I added The Life You Were Born to Live, which I mentioned yesterday, and also Now Discover Your Strengths. So those are there for you. You're very welcome. Thanks, everybody. And And okay, Lisa says she may not be able to make it tomorrow, or at least for just a part of it. Hope I can listen to a recording. Yeah, I have had a few challenges over the week. I am recording all of them, or at least making the attempt to. I know at least one day I lost part of the audio, and it does just takes time, to do it. So I'm kind of trying to, set a baseline that, hey, if I can get at least this many people interested in contributing, financially to the project, then I will invest the time or, hire some help. Joe and Nancy want to know, how do you get on Twitter without joining Twitter? Probably wouldn't really be all that impactful to get on Twitter. I mean, to be on Twitter pretty much means you're going to be joining Twitter. If you just wanted to see my Twitter feed, I think you can go to twitter.com/Kathy Sipple. I've never really tried that. I think you can do that. But yeah, it's definitely more meaningful if you have a Twitter account. And Lisa, I want to thank you for your support. So if I can do that at all, I will. It's just kind of like piling up a little bit for me to do when I've got some time. But this weekend actually looks pretty good, so I might have some time to work on videos. Anyway, thanks so much for everybody, your time, your support, and for those of you that were brave enough to take the mic. I'd almost like to have an open mic time tomorrow, too, for anybody that hasn't had a chance to share their voice, if they would like to talk about anything that they wish to share, new discoveries, anything. That would be great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign off then. I don't see any more questions, so I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody.